But let's also chat with our guest for the evening, Amit Nigam, who's the head of equity at Peerless Mutual Fund, and he's joining in for discussing market strategies. Amit, good evening to you, and thank you so much for taking time out for us. A little bit of profit booking and caution creeping in today for the markets a day after Sensex sailing past 30,000. Overall, what would you say as far as the valuations of this market go?
The way we look at markets is we do not start our work from the valuations. We generally look at the business and the management quality at the time of investments. However, we do keep an eye on valuations because at the end of the day, a good company and a good management bought at a very wrong price also is a very wrong decision for an investor. So as you asked, the valuations currently are probably at the higher end of the band that we would have seen in the last 10 odd years, and given the fact that we have not yet witnessed an earnings growth, so if I were to look at the historical number of Nifty and look at the P, we are trading in north of 24 times, which is like less than 4% yield, which to us seems to be slightly on the stretch side.
Amit, the corporate results are being declared in full swing today. Maruti fell after the stock actually did not give out any surprises, but it was a decent number in line estimates. Kotak, however, was good. What's your call? The way numbers have been pouring in, how have you analyzed, particularly private banks and autos?
So we are favorably inclined towards these two sectors, and it's been quite some time that we have been. And that has and the basic reason for that is the retail franchises that these businesses enjoy. So a lot of private sector banks, as you would see, are very inclined towards the retail part of the business, where the profitability is much better. Also in the auto space, if we find a lot of consumer facing businesses where again the profitability is intact. The growth has been good because we are seeing a huge upswing in the consumption side of the business. Now that is happening for the simple reason that today the per capita income of Indians is moving somewhere in the range of $2,000 per capita, and globally we have seen that across economies, across time frames, whenever people have crossed this number, the discretionary spend goes up. So auto, being a discretionary spend, lies in that sweet spot, and you need a bank to fund that growth which is beyond your current income. So from that perspective, we think these businesses over the next even 2 to 3 years should continue doing well.
Amit, earlier you were making a point when we were chatting offline that there are a lot of not so big bang reforms, but subtle reforms which are also going on at a state level on the rural side in the country, which is actually likely to improve the balance sheet, the fisc situation of the country. And about that no one is really talking about, but eventually they will also start mattering in financials. Talk to us more about it.
Yes, you are right. In fact, there are a lot of efforts which the government has been taking to improve the rural health, the financial health especially. So if you see the crop insurance, soil health card, fertilizer direct benefit transfers to the fertilizer companies. In fact, very recently we came to know about the initiative on the solar pumps, where a standalone farm becomes a completely independent unit, where the solar panel generates electricity, runs the solar pump even during the day when the farmer needs the power, as compared to earlier times when the power would be available only in the night. And so what happens now, being a completely independent unit, the pump is off the grid, so there is no more additional burden of agricultural subsidy. So the cross subsidy problem which the industry had to face, paying extraordinarily high prices for the same power, can come down. So this is something which has just started about 12 to 13 months ago. It's happening at the state level. So it's yet not taken off in a major way, but I think such small efforts when put together would definitely mean that there would be much better financial health of the rural economy. And one should not forget that the number of people staying in the rural part of our country is far higher than those staying in the urban centers. And what that can translate to consumption can be really big.
I mean, let's just, step back and amidst all the euphoria, also talk about some of the risks that are lying in this market. What is it you think that at this point investors must and should be careful about?
See, the biggest risk, as I said, was the valuations are actually running on the higher side. Apart from that, people should be very careful about the kind of companies that they buy in their portfolios. So at Peerless, we have a philosophy of looking at companies which have a good business model, have a good track record, and also are run by people, the management, who actually take care of the minority shareholders. These fundamental principles, as long as they are not deviated, I think investors will make money, and irrespective of the hubris and the euphoria in the market, one should not move away from these guiding fundamental points of investment.
Right. Amit, also, the mid-cap side, since we're talking about valuations and things looking frothy, would you say that's the case for the mid-caps? I mean, sure, as we were discussing at the start of the show, for the April series, the mid-cap index is up something like 5%. But is there more room there to run, or does a correction sort of look inevitable?
So in the mid-cap space, where we actually look at them as companies which are small today, but have the potential to become much larger in the times to come. The investment guidelines are still the same, that the business has to be good quality, the management and the promoters have to be shareholder friendly. And after that, I think some of the themes that we are actually excited about are, one is the GST, where we think after implementation there would be a disproportionate move towards the organized sector over the times to come, which are the places where a lot of these companies can benefit in gaining market share. So let's say the discretionary consumption, which I spoke about, where people are going to consume far more than they were doing in the earlier years. Companies which are going to gain market share from the unorganized sector. These are some of the industries where I think as investors we can make good amount of money over the next 2 to 3 years.
All right, Amit, we leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking time out for us and giving us some solid advice. Thank you so much for that. Let's move on, get you some top corporate earnings. Amongst them, of course, Maruti Suzuki. It's fourth